I never thought I'd see Chloe Reed again. Even less, that my first instinct upon seeing her would be to run. She was as radiant as ever, a vision in a red dress, surrounded by men falling over themselves to get her attention. I stood in the shadows, my breath catching in my throat. 3 years ago, she'd ended it with a simple, "Let's break up," and I'd made a graceless exit. Now, she was back, with that same familiar challenge in her eyes. "Julian Vance, have you been well?" "How could I be? How could I ever be well without you?" I never thought I'd see Chloe Reed again. Even less, that my first instinct upon seeing her would be to flee. The lights in the private room for the college reunion were blinding. The cacophony of laughter and clinking glasses was a dull roar in my ears. I stood at the doorway, but my gaze was uncontrollably fixed on the figure in the corner. Chloe Reed. 3 years, and she hadn't changed a bit. No, she was even more beautiful. She wore a wine-red slip dress that made her skin look like porcelain, her long, wavy hair cascading over one shoulder. She was leaning in, talking to the man beside her, a slight smile on her perfect red lips, her eyes crinkling with a careless charm. The man, impeccably dressed in a suit, was diligently pouring her a drink, his fingers brushing against the back of her hand in a way that was meant to look accidental. My fingers curled into a fist, nails digging into my palm. "Julian?" Someone clapped me on the shoulder. It was Leo, my old college roommate. "What are you doing just standing here? Get in." I tore my eyes away and walked in, my expression neutral. I deliberately chose a seat as far away from her as possible. But I could still hear her laughter, clear as a bell, a thin cord wrapping around my chest, tightening with every breath. "Hey, isn't that Chloe Reed?" Leo leaned in, his voice low. "I heard she's doing really well for herself. The line of guys trying to date her could probably stretch from here to Central Park." I didn't answer, just picked up my glass and took a swallow. The cold liquid did nothing to cool the fire in my gut. "You too, back in the day." Leo started, then trailed off. "That was a long time ago. I cut him off." Just then, the door opened again, and a few latecomers trickled in. Amid the loud greetings, Chloe finally looked up. Her eyes scanned the room, and then they stopped on me. For a split second, her smile froze. Then, as if nothing had happened, she looked away, busying herself with her phone. I smirked. Of course. That was her, always pretending not to care. Halfway through the party, Chloe got up to take a call. As she passed me, she left a faint trail of perfume in her wake, sweet, but not cloying like gardenias in the summer. I kept my eyes down, refusing to look at her. But after a few steps, she stopped, turned, and raised an eyebrow at me. "Julian Vance. 3 years, and you can't even be bothered to say hello?" I looked up. She was standing where the light met the shadow, her red lips curved into a smirk, her eyes glinting with that old, familiar challenge. "Long time no see," I said, my voice flat. She seemed taken aback by my coldness. After a moment, she just scoffed and walked away. Leo clicked his tongue beside me. "You two are still at each other's throats, huh?" I didn't answer, just stared in the direction she'd gone until she disappeared down the hall. 10 minutes later, Chloe returned, a bright smile on her face, her fingers flying across her phone screen. "Boyfriend," someone teased. She didn't deny it, just waggled her phone with a smile. "That's a secret." My hand tightened around my glass. The condensation dripped onto my fingers, cold and sharp. When the party broke up, it was raining. I was standing under the awning waiting for my Uber when I heard the sharp click of heels on the pavement behind me. "No umbrella?" Chloe was suddenly beside me, holding a black one. "Yeah," I grunted. She tilted her head, a sudden smile playing on her lips. "Beg me. I'll give you a ride." I glanced at her. Her eyes were sparkling with a sly light, like a cunning little fox. "No, thanks," I said coolly. "I've got a car coming." Her smile faltered, and she pouted. "Still no fun at all." With that, she turned to leave, but then paused again. "Julian, what? Have you?" She hesitated, as if searching for the right words. "Have you been well these last 3 years?" I was silent for a moment, then nodded. "I've been fine." She stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed. "Good to hear." And without another glance, she walked out into the rain. I stood there, watching her silhouette blur in the downpour, a painful knot tightening in my chest. My car arrived. I pulled the door open, but took one last look back. She was standing across the street, her umbrella tilted slightly, revealing the curve of her cheek. She seemed to be waiting for someone. A second later, a black sedan pulled up in front of her. She smiled, opened the door, and slipped inside. Just as the window rolled up, I thought I saw the driver reach over and ruffle her hair. I looked away and shut the door. "Let's go," I told the driver. The car pulled away from the curb. Rain hammered against the windows, blurring the world outside. I closed my eyes, but all I could see was her, all I could hear was her question. Have you been well? How could I be? Chloe Reed. Without you, how could I ever be well? I didn't expect to run into Leo outside my office building. He was leaning against his car, waving at me with a shit-eating grin. Mr. Vance, care to grace me with your presence for lunch? I checked my watch. An hour and a half until my afternoon meeting. What's up? Jesus. 3 years, and you still have the personality of a rock. He pulled open the passenger door. Get in. I'm buying you a drink. I frowned. I don't drink during work hours. Then we'll eat. He shoved me into the car. Relax. I won't get in the way of your workaholism. He chose a restaurant at the top of a skyscraper in the financial district, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. After ordering, Leo leaned in conspiratorially. After the reunion last night, Chloe added me on WhatsApp. My hand, holding a glass of water, paused. She asked me where you live now. A drop of condensation slid down my finger. I heard my own voice, terrifyingly calm. And you told her? Are you kidding? Leo waggled his eyebrows. I told her Mr. Vance lives at the office now, sleeps on a cot next to his desk. The waiter brought our appetizers. I picked up my fork. Hilarious. Keep pretending, Leo smirked. Did she add you? No. No way. She definitely. Leo suddenly went quiet, his eyes darting to a point behind me. The moment that familiar gardenia scent drifted past, my entire back went rigid. What a coincidence. Chloe's voice floated down from above, laced with mock surprise. I looked up. Today she was wearing a white knit dress, her auburn hair loosely pinned up. She looked softer than she had last night. Leo immediately shot up from his seat. I'm about to take this call. That traitor. Chloe slid gracefully into his empty chair, her fingertips tapping lightly on the table. In such a rush to leave yesterday. Work. Work now too. She tilted her head. Or, are you avoiding me? Sunlight streamed through the window, catching on her eyelashes and casting tiny, dancing shadows. I looked away. You're overthinking it. Am I? She suddenly reached out and covered my left hand where it rested on the table. Then why can't you look at me? Her palm was warm, her fingers tracing the bones of my wrist. It was just like 3 years ago. She could always throw me into chaos with the most casual touch. I pulled my hand back. Ms. Reed, please have some self-respect. Her smile froze. Julian Vance, she said, her voice turning cold. 3 years, and you've learned how to hurt people. I'll learn from the best, I said, looking her straight in the eye. I hear you're getting married. Congratulations. Her expression was a masterpiece. First shock, then anger, and finally, she actually laughed. Leo told you that. The waiter brought our main courses. She picked up my fork and took a bite of my steak. Too salty. She pushed the plate back to me. Your taste is still terrible. I stared at the fork, now smudged with her lipstick, my throat tightening. What do you want, Chloe? To catch up, she said, propping her chin on her hand. And to ask why you couldn't even break up with me in person. Why a text? The question was a knife to the chest. I put down my napkin. I have to get back to the office. Running away again? She sneered. Julian, are you really so scared you can't even hear me out? I stood, looking down at her. There was nothing left to say between us 3 years ago. Her eyes suddenly turned red. The sight was a punch to the gut. Chloe never cried. Not when her relatives passed away in college. Not once in front of anyone. But now, she was glaring up at me, a single tear clinging to her lashes. Fine. Great, she said, grabbing her purse and standing up. Then I wish you. Her voice cracked. I wish you a very happy blind date. I froze. What? Don't play dumb. She forced a painful smile. Next Saturday. Michelin 3-star. Do you need me to give you the table number? Leo. That goddamn traitor. She turned to leave, but a strange impulse made me grab her wrist. Who told you? Does it matter? She shook my hand off. Mr. Vance has never had a shortage of company, has he? I watched her walk away, her heels clicking sharply on the floor, a suffocating pressure building in my chest. Leo materialized out of nowhere, looking guilty as sin. So, she asked for your schedule last night. How much did you tell her? Just. He flinched. The blind date part. I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. Leo yelled after me. Where are you going? You have a meeting. Cancel it. As the elevator descended, I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. I'd never deleted her number. It sat there quietly at the bottom of my recent calls. The last entry was from 3 years ago, a call duration of 47 seconds. The breakup call. I remember she was crying, saying she was tired of always coming second to my projects, that we should just end it. I was silent for a long time before I finally just mumbled, okay. I found out later that day was the anniversary of her grandfather's death. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Want to know the real reason we broke up? I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. No. The reply was instant. Liar. The elevator reached the ground floor. As the door slid open, I saw her. Chloe, standing in the middle of the lobby. She held up her phone and wiggled it at me. Her eyes were still red, but a triumphant smirk played on her lips. Julian Vance, she said, each word deliberate. You lose. Sunlight poured through the revolving doors, framing her in a halo of light. For a second, she looked just like the girl who used to wait for me outside my lecture hall 3 years ago. And I suddenly realized, this reunion was never a coincidence. It was 3:17 a.m. The light from my phone screen was a painful glare in the dark. I stared at the new contact I just added, Chloe Reed. The profile picture with a selfie of her smiling at the camera, red lips slightly parted, her eyes full of a light that was exactly the same as I remembered from college. The friend request had come 2 hours earlier. The message attached was just 2 words. Add me. I'd swiped it away and brought it back 5 times before finally, at 3:21 a.m., I hit accept. Almost immediately, the status at the top of the chat window showed, typing. It stopped. Started again. After a few false starts, a message popped up. Still awake? I stared at the 2 words for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. In the end, I just sent a single letter. Yeah. Her reply was fast. Me neither. Followed by a second message. Thinking about you. My breath hitched. It felt like a fist had closed around my heart. It was just like when we broke up. 1 second she'd be saying, we're done. And the next she'd send a casual, miss you, as if the hurt had never happened. I shut off my phone and went to the kitchen for a glass of ice water. The cold liquid did nothing to quench the fire in my veins. My phone lit up again. I'm getting married next month. The glass slipped from my hand, shattering on the marble countertop. I stood frozen, watching the water spread across the floor as my phone buzzed again. Just kidding. And a third message. But you were nervous for a second, weren't you? I picked up the broken pieces of the glass and slowly typed. Congratulations. I regretted it the second I hit send. Of course, her reply was instantaneous. Julian Vance. You do care. I didn't reply again. I tossed my phone on the sofa. Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten. I stood at the window, watching the city slowly come to life, feeling like a part of me was still stuck in that rainy night 3 years ago. 9 o'clock, the company's weekly meeting. I sat at the head of the table, listening to the department heads give their reports, my phone vibrating relentlessly in my pocket. Mr. Vance, the CFO asked cautiously, about this quarter's report. Redo it, I interrupted. The numbers are wrong. The conference room fell silent. Sweat beaded on the CFO's forehead. Where? Where's the error? Everywhere, I said, standing up. Meeting's over. Walking out of the room, I pulled out my phone. 17 messages from Chloe, ranging from why are you ignoring me to I'm sorry. The last one was from 5 minutes ago. I'm downstairs. The elevator hit the ground floor, and I saw her through the glass doors. She was wearing an oversized black blazer, the no pants look showing off her long legs. She was leaning against the reception desk, laughing and chatting with a young woman working there, causing several employees walking by to do a double take. As I walked over, I heard her say, "It was so easy to get in college. Chloe Reed." She turned, her eyes lighting up. Well, look who finally decided to see me. The receptionist quickly made herself scarce. What do you want? I said, my face a cold mask. Can't I just come see you? She took a step closer, that light perfume wafting over. Why didn't you answer my messages last night? I was busy. Too busy to type yet? She raised an eyebrow. Or were you? A smirk played on her red lips. Upset when you heard I was getting married? I turned and walked away. Julian Vance. She came jogging after me, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Stop right there. She squeezed into the elevator just as the doors were closing. In the confined space, the sound of her breathing was deafeningly clear. What do you really want? I asked. I told you I miss you. She looked up at me, her eyelashes fluttering. It's been 3 years. You don't miss me at all. The elevator stopped on the 28th floor. The second the doors opened, I strode out. No. She laughed behind me. Then why did you keep my number? I faltered mid-stride. Leo told me, she said, catching up and walking in front of me, tilting her head. Julian, you obviously Ms. Reed. I cut her off. You were the one who wanted to break up. That's because you. She stopped abruptly, biting her lip. Never mind. Her phone rang, saving her. She glanced at the screen, and her expression shifted. I have to take this. She walked to the end of the hall, her back to me. Her voice was low, but I could still hear her say, "Don't be ridiculous, I'm busy." "Not tonight." A wave of irrational irritation washed over me. I turned, walked into my office, and slammed the door. 5 minutes later, there was a knock. "Come in." Chloe pushed the door open, that careless smile back on her face. "Are you angry?" I opened a file. "I'm busy. I don't have time to play games with you." "Games?" she sneered. "You think I'm playing games? What else would you call it?" I looked up. "Telling me you're getting married 1 minute, then coming here to flirt with your ex the next. You have a very unique set of hobbies, Ms. Reed." The color drained from her face, her fingers clutching her purse strap. "You're an asshole. Takes one to know one." "Fine. Great." She took a deep breath. "Then let me tell you, that call really was from my fiancé." My grip on my pen tightened, but my expression remained unchanged. "Congratulations, Julian Vance." She suddenly grabbed a folder from my desk and threw it at me. "Go to hell." The folder burst open midair, paper scattering like confetti. She turned to leave, but I shot up and grabbed her wrist. "Are you done?" "Let go of me," she struggled. "Go marry your job." I yanked her towards me, so close I could see the tears clinging to her eyelashes. "Chloe, what is it that you want?" "I want you." Her voice broke. "I want you to ask me to stay. Just once." The office door was suddenly pushed open. My assistant stood there. "Mr. Vance, your 10 o'clock client." Chloe took the opportunity to wrench free and bolted out of the room. My assistant asked cautiously, should I go after her? I bent down and began picking up the scattered papers. "No." The sun was bright outside, shining on the spot on the floor where she had just been standing. As I knelt, I saw a photograph she must have dropped. It was from college. She was smiling, leaning against my shoulder. On the back was a date, our 1-year anniversary. Beneath the date, a line of faded handwriting. "Julian, do you want me?" I clutched the photo, Leo's words from the reunion echoing in my head. "She got drunk once and just kept saying your name." My phone buzzed. A final message from Chloe. This time, "I'm really getting married. Goodbye." Saturday, 12:17 p.m. I stood outside the Michelin-starred restaurant, loosening my tie. That traitor Leo had not only told Chloe the time and place, he'd given her the exact table number. I stared at the message from my mother. "She's already there, don't keep her waiting," and finally just typed back, "Okay." The moment I pushed open the restaurant door, I saw her. Chloe, sitting at a window table, wearing a dark green velvet dress that made her skin look like snow. Across from her sat a man in a suit, attentively pouring her wine. She was smiling with her chin propped on her hand, the corners of her eyes lifting in a way I knew all too well. A smile with a purpose. I hesitated. "Mr. Vance." A soft voice came from my right. "Ms. Lynn" stood up. She wore a simple, light-colored dress, her dark hair falling over her shoulders. She looked gentle and poised. I tore my gaze from Chloe and nodded at her. "Sorry to have kept you waiting." "I just arrived myself," she smiled. Before she could finish, the sharp sound of shattering glass cut her off. At Chloe's table, a wine glass lay broken on the floor, red wine splashed across the hem of her dress. The man across from her jumped up, apologizing profusely, but she didn't even look at him. Her eyes were locked on me. I looked away and pulled out the chair for Ms. Lynn. "The signature dishes here are quite good." Ms. Lynn was about to speak when that familiar gardenia scent drifted over. "Fancy seeing you here, Mr. Vance," Chloe said, standing beside our table. The wine stain on her dress looked like a blooming flower. "And this is—" I put down the menu. "Ms. Lynn, my mother." "Oh, a blind date," she purred, her gaze sweeping over Ms. Lynn. "You two look good together." Ms. Lynn gave a slightly awkward smile. "And you are?" "Me?" Chloe's red lips curved into a smirk. "I'm his ex-girlfriend, the one who was in his bed yesterday." My fingers clenched the napkin in my lap. "Chloe, just kidding." She winked. "Don't let me interrupt. Enjoy your meal." She turned to leave, but I shot out and grabbed her wrist. "Apologize." "For what?" she sneered. "You're allowed to go on dates, but I'm not allowed to." "Ms. Reed." Ms. Lynn suddenly spoke, her voice gentle but firm. "You've spilled something on your dress. The restroom is down the hall to the right." Chloe blinked, then let out a laugh. "Interesting." She shook my hand off and walked away, heels clicking. I unclenched my hand, noticing the crescent-shaped marks my nails had left in my palm. "I'm sorry," I said to Ms. Lynn. "She's always been very beautiful." Ms. Lynn finished for me, her eyes knowing. "How long have you two been broken up?" 3 years. "But she looks—" Ms. Lynn took a sip of her wine. "Like you broke up yesterday." The rest of the meal was a blur. I spent most of it listening to her talk about her art studio and her students. I nodded and made the right noises, but my eyes kept darting towards the restroom. Chloe had been gone for 20 minutes. "Excuse me for a moment, Ms." Lynn said, rising from her seat. As soon as she left, the waiter brought dessert, along with a small note. "You smiled at her. You never smiled at me like that." "See." I stared at the note, a heavy feeling settling in my chest. "Sir, would you like to have that wrapped up?" the waiter asked. "No, thank you." I stood up. "Where's the restroom?" As I neared the end of the hall, I heard Chloe's voice, thick with tears. "He's just an asshole. I brought a date here on purpose to make him jealous. And he actually—" "Chloe," another woman's voice said, exasperated. "You know this wasn't a real blind date." "Nina." Chloe cut her off. "Why didn't you tell me it was you today? How was I supposed to know you were going to crash the party?" The voice, now audibly amused, replied, "Does my cousin know you're here?" "Of course not." "Julian." Chloe suddenly turned and saw me standing in the middle of the hallway, tear tracks still wet on her cheeks. Standing next to her was Ms. Lynn, no, Nina Vance. "My cousin." The air froze for a few seconds. "You too." Chloe looked from me to Nina. "You know each other?" Nina sighed. "He's my cousin." "Didn't my aunt tell you the business partner you were meeting today had the last name Vance?" Chloe's expression shifted from shock to humiliation, finally settling on a look of profound betrayal. "You two set me up? It was your own." Before Nina could finish, Chloe pushed past me and ran. I instinctively started after her, but my cousin grabbed my arm. "Julian, if you don't go after her, she's crazy enough to run into traffic." I caught up to her at the curb. She was trying to hail a cab, rain plastering her hair to her face, the dark green dress clinging to her, making her look impossibly fragile. "Chloe." She spun around, her eyes red. Was it fun? Watching me make a fool of myself. A car sped by, splashing a sheet of dirty water on her legs. I closed the distance and grabbed her arm. "Have you had enough?" "Me?" Her voice trembled. "Julian, you knew." "Knew what?" "That I'm still fucking in love with you." The rain started coming down harder, clinging to her lashes like tears. I let go of her. 3 years ago, you were the one who... Because I was an idiot. Okay, she cut me off. I was an idiot for trying to make you jealous. An idiot for thinking you'd fight for me. An idiot for... A cab pulled over. She yanked the door open. I slammed it shut. "Finish what you were saying." "Say what?" she sneered. "That I've dated a dozen guys in the last 3 years? That I've slept with all of them? Isn't that what you want to hear?" I knew she was lying. Leo had told me she hadn't even been on a date since we broke up. But the words still felt like daggers. "Fine." I let go of the door. "Have fun." As the cab pulled away, I saw her press her face against the window, her mouth forming a single, silent word. "Asshole." Back in the restaurant, Nina was waiting. She left. "Yeah." My cousin shook her head. "Julian, you so clearly." My phone buzzed. It was a voice message from Chloe. I played it, and her tear-choked voice echoed in the now-empty restaurant. "Julian Vance, you bastard. I don't have a fiancé. That picture was photoshopped. I haven't even held a guy's hand in 3 years. Are you happy now?" Nina burst out laughing. I knew it. I stared at my phone screen until it went dark. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sunlight reflected off the wet pavement in a million tiny, brilliant sparks, just like the light in her eyes whenever she cried. 1:06 a.m. The phone screen glowed in the darkness. Chloe's name, followed by 3 quick messages. "I'm downstairs. If you don't come down, I'm going to start screaming. You know I'll do it." I pulled back the curtain. Even from the 28th floor, I could clearly see the lone figure standing under the streetlight. She was in a thin white dress, holding her heels in one hand, barefoot on the concrete, staring up at my window. In the 30 seconds it took for the elevator to descend, I told myself over and over, this time be strong. The second I pushed open the building's main door, the night air hit me, thick with the smell of alcohol. Chloe swayed as she turned, her cheeks flushed, her eyes glistening. "You finally decided to see me?" she said, forcing a smile, her voice hoarse. I stayed where I was. "You've been drinking?" "Just a little." She held up her thumb and forefinger, pinching them together. The wind whipped her hair across her face. I forced myself to look away. "I'll call you a car." "No." She stumbled forward and threw herself against me. The scent of gardenias and alcohol overwhelmed my senses. I caught her automatically, my hands landing on her back. She was freezing, trembling. "Julian." She looked up, her eyelashes dotted with tiny beads of moisture. "Why don't you want me anymore?" The question was a dull knife, twisting slowly in my chest. I tightened my grip on her, then forced myself to let go. "You're drunk." "I'm not." She grabbed the front of my shirt, her voice breaking. "Why did you smile at Nina like that? You never smiled at me like that." The streetlight cast her shadow long and thin on the pavement, so fragile it looked like it could snap. I silently took off my jacket and draped it over her shoulders. "I'll take you home." "Home to where?" she cried out, her voice raw. "To a place without you." The tears finally fell, landing on the back of my hand, scalding hot. "Chloe," I heard my own voice, terrifyingly calm. 3 years ago, I was wrong." She cut me off, her nails digging into my arm. "I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have used someone else to provoke you. I shouldn't have said those things." The wind carried her sobs away. I reached up to wipe the tears from her face, but she grabbed my wrist the moment my fingers touched her skin. "You still love me, don't you?" she asked desperately, her eyes full of shattered light. "Leo said you kept my number, and Nina said in your study." I snatched my hand back. "They talk too much." She stumbled, the alcohol finally winning. I instinctively wrapped an arm around her waist to steady her. She leaned against my shoulder, her hot breath on my neck. "Julian, don't fall for someone else." Her voice grew softer, trailing off into a mumble. I stood there, feeling the even rhythm of her breathing, my chest aching so badly I could barely breathe. The light in the security office flicked on. I scooped her up into my arms and walked towards the elevator. She was so much lighter than 3 years ago, her collarbone pressing sharply against my arm. As I opened my apartment door, she stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Is this your place?" "Yeah." I laid her down on the sofa. "Ginger tea or honey water?" She didn't answer, just looked around the room. Her gaze landed on the half-open door to my study. I followed her line of sight. On my desk, next to a stack of files, was the framed photo of us at that music festival. The air went still. I knew it. She whispered, fresh tears welling up. "You do." I turned and went to the kitchen. The glass clinked softly in my hand as I poured her some water. When I came back, she was standing in the doorway of the study, holding something. "What is this?" She held up the piece of paper, her voice trembling. "A hospital report, dated 3 years ago. Diagnosis, gastric bleeding." "It's nothing." I reached for it, but she pulled back. "The day we broke up." She stared at the report, then let out a choked laugh. "You came from the hospital?" I didn't say anything. "Because I texted you that I was with someone else. So you didn't even bother to ask." "Enough." I cut her off. "There's no point in bringing up the past." "There is." She slammed the report down on the desk. "Julian, how could you? How could you not say anything?" Her voice was sharp in the silent apartment. I looked at her bloodshot eyes and suddenly felt exhausted. What would have changed if I had? I would have explained. I would have told you it was all just to make you angry. I would have. And then what? I asked quietly. We just keep torturing each other. She froze, as if someone had hit pause. She just stood there, staring. A car drove by outside, and somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. "So," she slowly sank to the floor, hugging her knees. "You really don't want me anymore?" The posture made her look so small, like a lost child. I crouched down to meet her gaze. "Chloe, A phone rang, shattering the silence. She fumbled for it. The screen lit up with the word "Mom." "Hello." She sniffled, trying to sound normal. "I'm fine. At a friend's house." "Really?" A panicked voice came from the other end. She bit her lip, listening, and then she broke. "I just can't get over him. What am I supposed to do?" The words hit me like a physical blow. She hung up and buried her face in her hands. "You should go." "What?" I said go. She looked up, her face a mess of tears. "You must love seeing me like this, don't you?" I reached out to wipe her tears, but she slapped my hand away. "Don't touch me." Her nails left fiery red scratches on the back of my hand. I pulled my hand back and stood up. "The guest room is on the left. Toiletries are. I don't need your charity." She grabbed a throw pillow and hurled it at me. "Get out." The pillow hit my chest with a soft thud. I turned and walked to the door. I could hear her sobbing behind me, the sound raw and broken. My hand was on the doorknob when I heard a heavy thump. Chloe had collapsed on the floor, her face ashen. "Chloe." I rushed back and scooped her up. Her body was burning up. The ER doctor's scolding voice, the rhythmic drip of the four, the sterile smell of antiseptic. It all blurred together, finally coalescing into the single image of her pale face on the hospital bed. A nurse handed me the bill. "Her allergy to alcohol. Is this severe and you let her drink that much?" I opened my mouth, but no explanation came out. The sky was beginning to pale when Chloe finally woke up. She looked at the 4 in her arm, then at me, slumped over in the chair beside her bed. Her voice was a dry rasp. "You're still here." I straightened up, my neck stiff from sleeping in one position. "How do you feel?" "Awful," she whispered, her fingers twisting the corner of the blanket. "Did I make a huge fool of myself?" The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting stripes across her face. I reached out and brushed a stray strand of hair from her forehead. Yeah, her lower lip trembled, and she looked like she was about to cry again. But it was cute, I added softly. Her eyes lit up instantly, like stars flicking on in a dark sky. A nurse came in to change her forebag, giving us a knowing look. Are you two lovebirds patch things up? A faint blush colored Chloe's pale cheeks. She secretly hooked her pinky finger around mine. Julian, my phone password. She looked down. It's still your birthday. Chloe stayed at my place for 3 days. The doctor said she needed to be observed after the allergic reaction. I should have taken her home, but when she grabbed my sleeve and whispered, "Don't make me leave," I found myself giving in. Right now, she was sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by piles of documents. I'd mentioned offhand yesterday that I needed to get them organized, and this morning I woke up to find her wearing my reading glasses, sorting everything into neat stacks. Her hair was in a messy bun, and there was a smudge of dust on her nose. "Where does this one go?" she asked, holding up a contract, her eyes bright. "On the left." She did as I said, then picked up the next file. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the side of her face, her eyelashes casting tiny shadows on her skin. It was a painfully familiar scene. In college, she used to do the same thing, complaining about my workload while helping me organize my research papers. "Julian," she said suddenly, looking up, "that cabinet in your study. Can you open it?" My fingers paused. "Which one?" "The one with the combination lock," she said, tilting her head. I wanted to find a book to read. The water glass clinked as I set it down. "The code is 1023. The air in the room suddenly felt thick. She stood up, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floor, and walked slowly towards the study like a cautious cat. I followed, watching her fingers tremble slightly as she entered the code. The moment the cabinet door swung open, she gasped. Inside, more than a dozen boxes were stacked neatly, each with a label. Chloe's 2021 birthday gift, Chloe's 2022 Valentine's Day gift. The most recent one was labeled, the gift I should have given Chloe in 2025. On the top shelf were dozens of concert tickets for bands she'd mentioned wanting to see, the dates spanning from the week after we broke up to just last month. What is all this?" Her voice was shaking. "Presents." I leaned against the doorframe. "The gifts I was going to give you each year until..." "Until what?" "Until you got married." Her eyes reddened instantly, her fingers tracing the edges of the boxes. "So you've been..." My phone buzzed on the desk. A text from my assistant. "Mr. Vance, Nina is asking if you'll still be attending the project meeting." Chloe's head snapped up. "You're leaving?" "In an hour." "No." She rushed over and grabbed my hand. "You haven't explained any of this." Her palm was hot, her eyelashes wet with tears. I reached up and wiped a tear from her cheek. "There's nothing to explain." "What do you mean there's nothing to explain?" Her voice rose. "You secretly kept photos of me. You remember my birthday. You even bought tickets for concerts I mentioned offhand." "Chloe," I interrupted. "You know why?" She suddenly let go of my hand and took a step back. "No, you don't know." The light cast shifting patterns on her face, and her voice was barely a whisper. "The day we broke up was the anniversary of my grandfather's death." I froze. "My father never approved of us," she said with a bitter smile. "That day, he used my grandfather's memory to pressure me, threatened that if I didn't break up with you, he would ruin your company. I was going to talk to you, but you were on the phone talking about projects and being busy, so So you had your classmate pretend to be with you?" She nodded, tears splashing onto the floor. "I wanted to make you jealous. I wanted to prove that you cared, that I was more important than your work. But you just ended it." It felt like a physical blow to the chest. All the confusion of the past 3 years suddenly clicked into place. Her uncharacteristic anger that day, the cruel words in her texts, and the look in her red-rimmed eyes when I'd rushed to see her straight from the hospital. "Why didn't you tell me? What good would it have done?" She looked up at me. "Have you go up against my father? Give up on the company you were just starting?" The sunlight caught the defiant line of her jaw. I suddenly understood. For 3 years, we had both been acting out of a misguided sense of protecting each other. I thought letting her go was for the best. She thought hiding the truth was protecting me. I closed the distance between us and pulled her into my arms. She stumbled against my chest with a soft gasp. "What are you doing?" "We're going to see your father." Now. I let her go. There are some things I should have said to him a long time ago. She stared at me for a few seconds, then launched herself at me, wrapping her arms around my neck. "Julian, do you have any idea how difficult my dad is?" "I do." I held her steady by the waist, which is why, over the past 3 years, I've acquired 3 of his biggest competitors. Her mouth fell open. You, The sun streamed in, and the stunned look on her face was so endearing it made my heart ache. I leaned down and kissed her, pouring 3 years of longing into it. My phone rang again. It was her father. Chloe looked at the screen, her expression tense. "My dad." "Answer it." She put on speaker. Her father's commanding voice filled the room. "Come home. Immediately." "Dad, And bring that boy with you," he said with a cold snort. "I want to see for myself who's had my daughter wrapped around his finger for 3 years." The line went dead. Chloe bit her lip nervously. "Are you sure about this?" "My dad might." I grabbed my car keys. "I backed down once 3 years ago. I'm not doing it again." Her eyes lit up. She practically skipped after me, then stopped at the door. "Wait, you never told me what 1023 means." I knelt down to help her with her shoes. "Guess. My birthday? Or maybe." Her eyes widened. "Is it the day we first met?" The elevator doors slid shut, reflecting our intertwined figures. I leaned down and kissed the top of her head. "It's the day you asked me." "Julian, do you want me?" Chloe announced she was going to win me back. This declaration was made 3 days after her father grudgingly agreed to our relationship. We were in my kitchen. She was attempting to make me breakfast, which had resulted in charcoal briquette eggs and a smoke alarm so loud the entire building could hear it. "Starting today," she proclaimed, brandishing a spatula, a smudge of soot on her nose, "I'm going to repay you for every single thing you did to court me back in the day." I silenced the alarm and took the spatula from her hand. Such as. Her eyes lit up. "Driving you to work." And so, on Monday morning, a bright yellow Lamborghini was parked next to my black Maybach. Chloe leaned against it, sunglasses pushed up on her head, a red dress fluttering in the morning breeze. "Mr. Vance, need a ride?" She grinned, tilting her head. My assistant, standing nearby, was trying so hard not to laugh his shoulders were shaking. We didn't make it 3 blocks before she rear-ended a taxi. "It wasn't my fault," she wailed, forehead pressed against the steering wheel. He slammed on his brakes. I sighed and got out to handle it. When I came back, she was taking a selfie with the cab driver. The guy was holding her phone, grinning from ear to ear. "All set?" she asked, sliding over. "Yep." I got on the driver's side. "I'm driving." She obediently moved to the passenger seat, muttering, "Off to a rough start." That was only the beginning. On Tuesday, a beautifully wrapped cake box arrived at my office. Inside was a blackened object. "Tiramisu," she said, her face beaming on the video call. "My first time making it. Try it." I stared at the lump of carbon. "Are you sure this isn't charcoal?" Her smile vanished. "Julian Vance." On Wednesday, she showed up downstairs with a go board. "I learned to play," she announced proudly. 1 game. 30 minutes later, she was caught trying to steal 3 of my stones. Well, I called her on it. She declared, "It's called strategy." On Thursday, I came home late from work to find her curled up asleep by my front door, clutching a thermos. "Hey," I said, gently shaking her awake. She blinked her eyes open. "You're back. I made you soup." The soup in the thermos was cold, a layer of grease congealed on top. I took a sip. It was so salty it was bitter. "Is it good?" she asked, her eyes full of hope. "Yeah, really. I put the spoon down. "It's just a little." "A little what?" "Like drinking seawater." She launched herself at me, trying to strangle me, laughing and calling me an asshole. I caught her and pulled her into a hug, breathing in the faint gardenia scent of her hair. Friday night, I was in my study, finishing up some work when she pushed the door open, holding an envelope. "For you," she said, her expression oddly serious. I opened it. Inside was a checklist titled, 100 Ways for Chloe Reed to Win Over Julian Vance. A dozen or so items were already crossed off. 86 to go, she said, kneeling by my chair and looking up at me. "Do you want to finish the list with me?" The lamplight illuminated her face, her eyelashes casting long shadows. I was suddenly reminded of college, when she would fall asleep with her head in my lap while I pulled all-nighters, murmuring, "Julian, you have to take care of me forever." "Okay," I heard myself say. She cheered and threw her arms around my neck to kiss me. We stumbled and fell onto the sofa, her long hair spilling across my chest. "Wait," she said, propping herself up. "I have to confess something." The whole fiancé thing." She bit her lip. "I totally made that up." I raised an eyebrow. "I know. You knew." Her eyes widened. "Then why did you?" "It was fun watching you act." "Julian Vance." She pounded my chest in frustration. "Do you have any idea what I've been through this week?" My phone rang. The screen flashed Leo. I answered, and my friend's teasing voice came through. "Jules, guess who I just saw at War?" "Who?" "Your rival," he said, his voice low. "Derek Thorne, the basketball captain who was obsessed with Chloe in college." He's telling everyone he almost married her. The color drained from Chloe's face. Derek? Isn't he overseas? The muffled sound of music and a man's loud laughter came through the phone. She was so into me back then, if it hadn't been for that Vance guy. I hung up and looked at Chloe. Want to go say hello? She hesitated, then shook her head. It's not worth it. You sure? I stood up. He might be able to tell you how he almost married you. Are you jealous? Her eyes lit up. She jumped up and wrapped her legs around my waist. Julian, you're jealous, aren't you? I held on to her so she wouldn't fall. No. Yes, you are, she said triumphantly. Let's go. Let's go pay him a visit. The lights at Noir were dim and hazy. We just walked in when we heard Derek's booming voice. Her dad loved me. If it wasn't for her. His voice died when he saw us. If it wasn't for what? Chloe asked, linking her arm through mine, a sweet smile on her face. Derek's face went through several shades of pale before settling on a forced smile. Chloe? What a coincidence. It's not. I cut him off. We came here for you. The chatter around us died down. Derek's friends looked from us to him, their expressions shifting. I hear, I said, taking a slow step forward, that you almost married her. Derek swallowed hard. We were really close back then. Close to what? Chloe tilted her head. I don't remember agreeing to anything. A few snickers rippled through the crowd. Derek's face flushed a deep red. Chloe, do you have to be like this? Bringing your new boy toy here to humiliate me? No, she laughed, then stood on her toes and kissed my cheek. We've been together for 5 years. This is just us getting back together. Derek looked like he'd swallowed a bug. I put my arm around Chloe's waist and turned to leave, but heard him sneer behind us. Julian Vance, you're just one of her backups. Chloe moved faster than I did. She snatched a drink from a nearby table and spun around, flinging its contents in Derek's face. Apologize, she said, her voice like ice. Apologize to him. The liquor dripped down Derek's face. He stared at her in disbelief. For him, you... Last chance, Chloe cut him off. Apologize, or tomorrow your father finds out how you've been embezzling company funds. The color drained from Derek's face. On the drive back, Chloe kept stealing glances at me. What is it? I asked. You're not mad, are you? She asked quietly. The way I treated Derek. I turned the corner. Why'd you do it? Because he insulted you, she answered without hesitation, then paused. And because I owe you. Owe me what? A lot. She fiddled with her seatbelt. 3 years of misunderstandings, all the things I said to hurt you, and... I pulled the car over and turned to face her. Chloe. Yeah. You can stop trying to win me back. The color drained from her face. What? What do you mean? I unbuckled my seatbelt, leaned over and kissed her. Her lips were cool, tasting faintly of her gin and tonic. I said, my forehead resting against hers. You already have? Her eyes sparkled in the dark. So, the other things on the list. We'll get to them. Eventually. She threw herself into my arms, pushing me back against the car door. The night wind caught in her hair, the strands brushing against my cheek. Julian, she mumbled into my chest. I'm never letting you go again. Derek's retaliation came faster than I expected. Monday morning, as I walked into the lobby, I heard the receptionist whispering. Is it true? Was Mr. Vance really just a backup plan? In the elevator, several employees went silent when they saw me, their eyes darting away. My assistant rushed over and handed me a tablet. The top headline was an exclusive interview with Derek Thorne. Reed Aris's love life exposed. The cold-hearted CEO was just the consolation prize. The article was accompanied by the photo of Chloe throwing the drink at him, but the caption was twisted to read, Old flames rekindle, new lover erupts in jealous rage. Get the legal department on this, I said, tossing the tablet back to him. I want a public retraction and an apology within 3 hours. My assistant hesitated. About Ms. Reed. My phone buzzed. It was Chloe, sending me her location, the headquarters of Thorne Industries. By the time I got there, Derek was being blocked by security at the revolving doors, a fresh, red handprint livid on his cheek. Chloe stood there in 4-inch heels, clutching a stack of papers, her voice echoing through the massive lobby. Let me hear you spread one more lie about Julian Vance. And these documents detailing your embezzlement will be on the SEC's desk tomorrow morning. Sunlight streamed through the glass dome of the ceiling, catching her in its beam. Her dark green suit looked like a weapon. Her eyes scanned the crowd, and when they found me, they lit up. Julian. She hurried over, her heels clicking sharply on the marble. Derek roared behind her. Chloe, do you really think he loves you? It's only because you're father. Shut up. She started to charge back at him, but I grabbed her arm. That's enough, I said, holding her wrist. He's not worth it. Her chest heaved with ragged breaths, her nails digging into my palm. How dare he say that about you? I leaned down and kissed the top of her head, then took the papers from her hand and gave them to a security guard. Give these to Mr. Thorne Sr. In the car, she stared out the window, silent. At a red light, I reached over and turned her face towards me. Her eyes were red. What's wrong? I'm not crying, she snapped, pulling away. I'm just angry. I gently rubbed the pale skin of her wrist. Why? Because. Her voice cracked. Because they have no idea how good you are. Her words were like a hot coal pressed against my heart. I pulled the car over, cupped her face in my hands, and kissed her long and deep. She struggled at first, then grabbed my tie and kissed me back fiercely, her tears smearing against my cheek. Julian, she said, breathless, let's get married. Sunlight streamed through the windshield, catching on the teardrops still clinging to her eyelashes. I wiped them away. Are you sure? I should have been sure 3 years ago, she said, pulling out her phone. I'm calling my dad right now. When the call connected, her father's voice boomed through the speaker. What trouble have you gotten into now? Dad, I'm marrying Julian Vance. Silence. 10 long seconds of it. Put him on. Chloe looked at me nervously. I took the phone. Mr. Reed, I heard the Thorne kid was giving you trouble, her father said. I took the phone. Mr. Reed, I heard the Thorne kid was giving you trouble, her father said, his tone unreadable. Need any help? No, it's all ready. There's a charity gala next month. He cut me off. Bring Chloe with you. The line went dead. Chloe was dumbfounded. That's it. He agrees. I squeeze her cheek. Not happy. No. She threw her arms around my neck. I just didn't expect. Wait, when did you win over my dad? 3 years ago, I said, starting the car. The day you sent that breakup text. He came to see me. Her fingers went stiff on my shoulder. What? What did he say? He said I wasn't good enough. I glanced at her at the red light. He said unless I could double the company's market value in 3 years, I was to never see you again. Tears splashed onto the back of my hand. So that's why you... Yeah. She suddenly unbuckled her seatbelt, climbed over the console, and straddled my lap, kissing me hard. Horns started blaring behind us, but she ignored them, not stopping until a police officer tapped on the window. License and registration, the cop said deadpan. In a public. Chloe opened her wallet and pulled out a thick wad of cash. Double the fine. Can you give us 5 more minutes? The officer's jaw dropped. The wedding was set for 3 months later. The day she tried on dresses, I stood outside the dressing room and heard her talking to her best friend. Are you sure about this? No regrets. Oh, I have regrets. Chloe's voice was full of laughter. I regret not dragging him to City Hall sooner. The curtain was pulled back. She stood before the mirror, the fishtail gown shimmering with tiny crystals, making her look like a mermaid. When she saw me, she twirled. What do you think? I walked over and wrapped my arms around her from behind. Yeah, just yeah. She glared at me in the reflection. Mr. Vance, I think you're supposed to say something a little more romantic right now. The shop assistant tactfully disappeared. I leaned down and kissed the nape of her neck. I love you. She spun around so fast the dress caught on my cufflink, tearing the fabric. What did you just say? I love you. Say it again. She pressed her fingers to my lips. Save it for the wedding. The night before the wedding, I found her sneaking around my study. What are you looking for? She jumped, nearly knocking into a bookshelf. What? What are you doing home? I thought Leo was throwing you a bachelor party. Canceled it, I said, walking closer. What were you looking for? This. She held up a small velvet box. The gift I never got to give you. Inside was a pair of cufflinks, engraved with JVCR. The craftsmanship was a little rough. I made them my sophomore year, she said, looking down and embarrassed. I was going to give them to you on our anniversary. I took her hand and pulled her into my arms. It's not too late. On our wedding day, as she walked down the aisle on her father's arm, her hands were shaking. When it was time to exchange rings, she slipped the ring onto my finger and whispered, Julian Vance, do you want me? Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting a kaleidoscope of colors on her face. I leaned down and kissed her. I do. Amid the cheers of our friends and family, she stood on her toes and whispered in my ear. This time, I promise I'm never letting go. Epilogue. The news of Chloe's pregnancy was announced when she woke me up by hitting me with the pregnancy test. At 5:18 a.m., a plastic stick with 2 red lines landed squarely between my eyebrows. I opened my eyes to see her kneeling on the bed, her hair a mess, her eyes wide. Julian Vance, look what you did. I stared at the test for 3 seconds, then threw back the covers and got out of bed. Hey, she yelled after me. Is that all you have to say? I was pulling a shirt out of the closet. Going to the hospital. Now. She grabbed her phone to check the time. It's not even 5:30. Yep. I started buttoning my shirt. To be sure, she suddenly rushed over and hugged me from behind. Are you not happy? I looked down at her and saw her eyelashes trembling, her fingers clutching my shirt. I'm happy, I said, stroking her hair. I was just worried you'd be scared. Her eyes instantly lit up. I'm not scared, which turned out to be a lie when she nearly broke my hand while getting her blood drawn at the hospital, making the nurse chuckle. Mom's so timid. How are you going to be a role model for the baby? Chloe retorted, who's timid? Julian's hands were cold. I was just warming them up for him. Morning sickness. At 7 weeks, Chloe's morning sickness arrived with a vengeance. I walked into the bathroom with a glass of lemon water to find her heaving over the toilet. When she saw me, she tried to push me away. Go away. It smells. I knelt and held her hair back. When she was done, she leaned against me, completely drained, and started to cry. I'm so ugly right now. You're not. Liar, she sobbed, pointing at the mirror. My face is all swollen. I picked her up and carried her back to bed, getting my ear pinched in the process. Julian Vance, did you just smile? No. Your mouth moved. Prenatal education mishaps. The prenatal coach suggested listening to classical music. So every night at 8 p.m., I would play Mozart. Until one day, I came home early and found Chloe had secretly switched the music to rock and roll. She was rubbing her belly and explaining to the baby, don't listen to your dad. His lullabies are so boring. I cleared my throat from the doorway. She was so startled, she almost fell off the sofa. Yep. What are you doing back? Meeting was canceled. I walked over and switched the music back to the piano concerto. Prenatal education. She pouted, and the second I turned my back, she secretly turned the volume back up. Prenatal anxiety. A week before her due date, Chloe shook me awake in the middle of the night. Julian, what if I die in childbirth? I turned on the lamp. Her eyes were red, and she was clutching a parenting book. You won't, I said, wiping a tear from her cheek. I've read the statistics, modern medicine. What good are statistics? She cut me off. You have to swear. Swear what? That if I die, you won't marry some pretty young thing, she demanded, grabbing my pajamas. You have to wait at least 5 years. I sighed and pulled her into my arms. Okay. She was quiet for a moment, then looked up again. 5 years is too short. Make it 10. The big day. Before they wheeled her into the delivery room, Chloe held onto my hand for dear life. Julian Vance, this is all your fault. The doctors and nurses were trying not to laugh. I kissed her sweaty forehead. Yeah, my fault. Have you thought of a name? She suddenly asked. Whatever you want. Let's name her Julia Vance. The midwife's hand slipped, and she nearly dropped a tray of instruments. 3 hours later, a nurse came out holding a tiny, wrinkled baby. Congratulations, it's a girl. I glanced at her for only a second before rushing into the delivery room. Chloe was lying there, exhausted, her hair stuck to her face. She saw me and weakly held out a hand. Is she pretty? Beautiful, I said, taking her hand. Just like you. She closed her eyes, content, and mumbled. Then we can't name her Julia. It's too plain. Parenting adventures. On the day of our daughter's 1-month celebration, Chloe mysteriously handed me an envelope, a gift. Inside was a photo of our newborn daughter wrapped in a pink blanket. Around her ankle was a tiny silver bracelet, engraved with JVCR. Custom made, she said proudly. A matching set with your cufflinks. I leaned in to kiss her, but was interrupted by a sudden wail. Chloe scrambled to pick up our daughter. Shoo, it's okay. Mommy's here. But the crying only got louder. I took the baby from her, patted her back twice, and she instantly quieted down. Chloe was incredulous. How is that fair? I was trying for 10 minutes. She takes after me. I teased. A daddy's girl. Julian Vance. She lunged at me. I can't live like this. Later that night, I got up to get some water and saw her leaning over the crib, whispering to our daughter, Baby, can you cry a little extra for daddy tomorrow? Just so he knows how hard I work. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, illuminating the sly grin on her face. I leaned against the doorframe, suddenly remembering a question from a long time ago. Julian Vance, do you want me? I do. For the rest of my life. The end.